Well, hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in today. Welcome to Sign for More Injury Funding podcast for all who want to learn about legal funding and its significance in personal injury, tracking law, medical malpractice, and all other types of law practice domains. I'm Laura, your host, and we'll be welcoming back our dear trial attorney, Nathan Gaffney with Goldberg, based in Atlanta. And guess what? We'll talk about AI again. And so it's from different perspective because that's something that everybody has been asking us about, and something that many people don't feel comfortable with. So Nathan will shed light on some aspects of AI and what AI is, definition. We're going to start with definition and application in the legal world. So welcome back again, Nathan. It's so good to have you with us today.
Well, hey, Laura, thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk about artificial intelligence. It's a lonely world, and you give me a vehicle to kind of go on and on and on about the thing that I love to study and educate people about. So thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. So we are in the eve of 2025. Literally today is the 31st of January. It's hard to believe. This year went by for me personally, like I would say one brief moment. Learned a lot, went through a lot, and I'm still here. So cheers to that.
Cheers.
Cheers for the wonderful, amazing 2025. And all I know is that 2026 will be so much better. So I'm super ready. It's going to be good energy, lots of learning potential. It's going to be an amazing year. So why don't we start with the first question here that we have for you, Nathan. Mm-hmm. Tell me about, let's start about, since we talk about New Year's, tell me about your New Year's resolutions. What do they mean to you? Or is there such a thing as resolutions for you in your life?
I actually do not like the word. The reason why is I think they're too definite. I pick one big resolution, some life-changing thing. To me, in my head, if I don't go through with it, if I don't do it, if I fail to do it consistently, it feels like a big time failure. So I don't want to feel bad about myself in 2026. And so what I do is I replace the word resolution with the word practice.
Okay.
I like the idea of committing myself to adopting daily practices. Mm-hmm. To me, that seems like if I commit myself to doing something that takes 2 minutes and I don't do it one day, it's not that big of a deal.
Good.
Because the next day I just go it's 2 more minutes, right?
I love that.
So mine this year, because I am very invested in artificial intelligence and I'm constantly thinking about interacting with it, one of my daily practices that I'm going to start doing for the first time is I'm picking one human activity to do that I could do digitally. I could do it with artificial intelligence. Mm-hmm. Instead, I'm going to do it without the computer, without artificial intelligence, and I'm going to do it very, very slowly, intentionally.
Okay, so what would be an example of those activities? Have you thought about them specifically?
Sure. One of them is I like to meditate. And after I meditate, I would be tempted to journal, if I'm going to journal, digitally by speaking into my phone or maybe typing it on a keyboard. And instead, what I'm going to do, an example of this would be I have a journal, I have a pen, and I'm going to very carefully and slowly get my thoughts out on pen and paper. Mm-hmm. That would be an example.
That's wonderful. So would you say that, with AI moving so fast in the last, 2 years, maybe 2.5 years, the thing that possibly would remain in high demand and would be something that people really look for is the personal touch without technology, without computer. Would you agree with that?
I 100% agree with that. And that is part of the idea behind that daily practice that I'm going to do. Is the idea is that it sort of protects my humanness a little bit, mm-hmm. my human creativity. Most of these tools, and I know we're going to talk about generative AI and what that is, they don't work well without your humanness. The minute you start to try to use them and just press a button and have them do all the work and all the thinking, you're probably going to produce the word of 2026 or the word of 2025, which is slop. Do you know that's Time Magazine's word of the year is slop.
What is slop?
So slop, AI slop, is the idea of, so I'm going to use some terms for you guys. In the age of AI, what makes a good AI work product? What makes good AI art or good AI written work products? Good AI writing. Mm-hmm. And the idea is that what really makes AI writing and work product good, human friction. And the friction is a very intentional word that AI people will use. It's basically a synonym for effort, for human effort. But the idea is that the human being who's working with AI to produce the image or produce the artwork or to produce the writing or the movie, that human being had to actually think through and move through and use their creativity and their judgment with AI to make a beautiful work product. And so when we talk about friction, that's what we mean. I mean, we're talking about AI work product is good when human beings work through friction. That's one of my outlines. Okay. Talk about, but it's true. And so back to your point, which is you were talking about human touch. That's another way of saying that a human being has worked through friction. Is saying that human touch is sort of like our ability to just take sort of the boilerplate, vanilla, automatic output of something like ChatGPT, and we make it more human. So I have a question for you, and for most of your audience. I guess you can respond to, and they can think about in their head. I am curious this year just how many people have an artificial intelligence New Year's resolution they've decided they're going to commit to. I wonder how many people have said to themselves, you know what, I think it's time. I see all these Meta Wayfair glasses and I see all these advertisements for things. I think it's time that I kind of commit to myself to figure out what this is all about. Do you have one?
Do I have a AI specifically, like AI creative goal?
Well, how about you give me your New Year's resolutions generally, and then you tell me if you have an AI specific.
Okay, so in the past, I used to believe in New Year's resolutions because that's something that's commonly known within society. That's what people do, especially in the United States. I'm from Lithuania. Europeans don't really, back in the day, didn't have per se New Year's resolutions. There were dreams, there were desires, but it wasn't put in the specific term New Year's resolutions. So I did go with the flow years ago. Now I believe that I don't believe in New Year's resolutions. It took some years for me to get to that point. I just do the best I can. I have certain goals and aspirations that I follow every day. And so for me, yes, I thought about it actually yesterday and today on the way here, the things I would like to do. So there are certain things that I would like to do, like for instance, get more, I think I'm thankfully, thanks to God and thanks to myself, I'm really healthy. Don't take any medications, only vitamins and supplements, but get even healthier. Because as I age, it's very, very important, like to lift a little bit more, to start running again, because after my car accident over 4 years ago, I was out of running scene. So, I just implemented that in 2025. So yesterday, a girl at my class was asking me, Laura, do you want to run triathlon? I said, oh my God, like what's involved? And I do know, but then I had to ask her because I was in shock. I was like, oh my goodness. So yeah, so I'd like to do just more physical, more strenuous activity, hopefully 6 times a week versus 4 to 5 times a week, and just work on myself, on my mental health, just mindset, that I'm very heavily believe in that. So just work on myself as I just continue working on myself, continue going to seminars, listening to some people that I follow that I highly respect. And of course, work on my business, to make that difference in people's lives, because there's no better feeling that knowing at the end of the day that I did everything I could for my business to succeed.
I think it's beautiful.
Thank you.
I think this topic is like one of my favorite ones, like sort of personal growth or New Year's resolutions. And it's more like I like analyzing other people's answers. I like yours because I generally think that most people approach New Year's in a bad way. Most professionals I know that I hear talking about. So when I see my friends this time of year, who are all busy professionals, and I see them coming up with their New Year's resolutions, the number one error that I see is I see someone who is literally doing absolutely nothing at all other than going to work and going home. And then I'll hear them say something like, I'm going to do strength training 3 times a week, and I'm going to do cardio 2 times a week. And I'm saying to myself, you are going to not do any of that the first bad day you have with your wife or at work. And so my advice to all of you, which no one asked for, but I'm going to give, is think of your worst day and plan your New Year's resolution to survive that worst day. And if you can't do that, you're probably not going to be able to complete it.
That's wonderful advice. I do believe in that. So I applaud you for that.
But to tie it back to artificial intelligence, I think, I could be wrong, we have 1 billion ChatGPT users in the United States.
Wow.
I believe I heard that statistic. That is crazy. And so one of the things I thought might be interesting for you and the audience is for me to sort of, if any of you are like kind of fresh into artificial intelligence and you don't really understand the whole layout of it, how does it work? What I'd like to do, if you are okay with this, is sort of take you guys through like a 5-minute, this is how it all relates. This is everything you're seeing right now. How does it all relate to artificial intelligence?
And so that's a great point. And we would absolutely love, hear your opinion on that and the teaching, because you are pro in this field. So let's tie your answer that's about to come to our next question, which is, do injury lawyers need AI resolutions? And let's start with AI. What's AI? What's ChatGPT and everything else?
So I feel very strongly about this, and people can push back. The answer to the first question very strongly is, if you do not adopt artificial intelligence in some capacity, if you keep hiding from it, you are absolutely going to have consequences that come soon. This is going to be similar to your refusal to adopt the internet. Some level, it might be worse than your refusal to adopt something like Westlaw or Lexis. And the best reason that I can give to you is that the entire world, the entire industry, the government, everything that matters and is of consequence, sort of like in our economy and our integrating artificial intelligence. And no matter what your profession is, whether you're a doctor, teacher, if your refusal to connect your brain to it is affirmatively at this point an obstacle to your prosperity.
Okay, so if you hear this as a warning of some kind, maybe, but that's true. That's so true.
But injury, so they answer that specifically, of course, injury lawyers need to. The reason why you need to on so many levels is your clients are going to be using, your opponents are going to be using artificial intelligence, and the courts are going to use artificial intelligence. You have no choice if you're going to be competitive in this marketplace, because everyone is going to be using artificial intelligence for their advertisement. They're going to be using it for their work product generation as lawyers. They're going to be using it for their analysis. And at some point, while some of that stuff is a little bit of a gimmick, it's starting to not be a gimmick. And the minute it's not a gimmick and it improves efficiency and outcomes, when you're not using it, you're going to be behind.
So what would be your recommendation? Because I'm sure, you see so many people, you travel nationwide, you talk to judges, you talk to attorneys, you talk to your law partners, your employees. But specifically when it comes to attorneys, do you see still a lot of resistance coming from attorneys and judges to use ChatGPT or AI for that matter? And then if you do, why do you think they resist the nuance in their life? What's the reason behind it?
So Laura, I really like that question. Since the last time I've been here, I've had a lot of different conversations with lawyers and judges. I've actually had some judges, which are some of the most informative. What I can tell all of you is that most people do not like to discuss openly their use of artificial intelligence, including judges. But most people are dabbling. I mean, even people who are resistant to it and who you hear publicly talk about it being a problem for our profession, they are also still using it. I had this funny thought that I thought was really funny. And it was this year. I hope someone sees this and will text you and says, he nailed it. There are so many people right now whose very first realization that ChatGPT is helpful is that they did Elf on the Shelf this year, and they ran 1 million images and signs and things like that for their kid.
Amazing, isn't it?
It is.
Did
Did you do anything this year with ChatGPT and making anything
Oh my
graphical?
God, I did so many things. And I'm all open about that. My son, who's 18 years old, he thinks, and he went to Walt, and he started using ChatGPT, of course, way before me.
Mhm.
And I remember when I said, baby, a couple of years ago, I'm using the system, and I just wrote this song about you, like the lyrics for the song I like to sing. It's like, okay, the about you, and it's amazing. It captured you as Lucas with K more. And he's like, Mom, this is so late. He didn't look at it because 18 at that time he was 17 or 16. And then he's like, Mom, this is so lame, first of all. And I've been using it for a while. I was like, so wait. Have you been cheating? That's plagiarism. He's like, no, Mom, within limits. I know. And he's a smart kid. Like, I know how to use it. So if you ask any student, nobody, even the kids, your boys, nobody would, like, a lot of kids for the school purposes, right? For educational purposes, wouldn't admit it. But, kids have started using it way before us.
Well, I think that the gateway drug sort of AI for most people like you, actually, most people like me, it's through images and art. It's your ability, all of a sudden, it democratizes technical skill. It makes it so it's no longer a barrier. The fact that I can't form, the actual lines with my hands is no longer the problem. The problem is now, main limitation is what can my brain think of? And I think that people are starting to realize now, their first introduction to, hey, things are different, is they can make a little sign for their baseball team or their child, and then or their business. Yeah. I mean, people are making it for their business. And what they're realizing is, okay, the domain of artwork now is no longer one that it's inaccessible to me. Am I as good as a regular artist? No. But am I 80 to 85% as good as one? I am. And that is why people are worried about artificial intelligence. Is it probably going to replace a lot of the slop, to go back to our word? Not everything in life that is artwork or that's writing or it's maybe something that required a lot of friction to produce, meaning that it's not that scarce, it's not that rare, it's not that hard for you to recreate. And so a lot of the things that I predict what's going to happen with a lot of this stuff is a lot of the stuff that you would have purchased in 2024 and 2023, you're not going to be buying anymore. And if you're going to be buying something that's going to be way better than whatever it is you can produce. And so I'm hopeful that what a lot of artificial intelligence will do is it will improve the quality of a lot of things in life. But I think it all starts with images. So. Yes,
but it's an interesting point, actually. I'm a couple of years ago, maybe I would say 2, 3, probably more, actually 3.5 years ago, almost at the beginning of more injury funding, I thought, what, I need some good images because I'll be using them on my business card, my flyers, my social media, and everything else. And actually, at one of your seminars at Goldberg, one of the breakfast seminars, I've noticed this man, an elderly, really nice looking gentleman photographer, professional photographer, who was going out of his way, climbing the ladder super quietly, taking pictures, moving around so fast, no young guy would do. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to talk with this man. I really like the way he takes the pictures, the way he moves, and he really cares. I looked at the lens, I love this camera. So during the little, break, I said, sir, I'm Laura Moore with More Injury Funding. I would love, to work with you. Could you possibly take a few pictures of me? So he came to my condo, he took a couple of pictures, but, and so if you're listening right now, don't judge. Okay. So yeah, so it was for 2 pictures, I paid over $800, right? And that was all a couple of years ago. Yeah. Now, if you look at my social media, I don't know if you have looked recently, but my social media manager, she uses AI extensively, and actually asked her to do so. So she creates some amazing images. I'm
actually going to be doing a seminar. I'm so kind of excited about this. I will be actually doing a seminar for lawyers in March. I think it's going to be, I can't remember where the program is going to be, but it's actually on producing images and artwork for lawyers and professional law. I'm really stoked about it, but it'd be for somebody that's kind of designed also for someone like you, because you're a business owner and your art needs for your business are going to be a lot different than like someone making. You need lots of words, right?
Yes.
You need lots of, and one of the things that we'll talk about. So I'm promoting myself, but one of the things I'm going to be talking about are the different utilities you can use beyond ChatGPT, beyond just uploading something and saying do this. There are a whole suite of things out there that actually work better with more business. Plug this. I actually created this thing. I'll show it to you, Laura. I don't know if you saw it on my social media, but what I made just to demonstrate how you can control things. I took my resume. You see that? I don't know if it's all. I took my resume, and what I did is I converted it to a 4K map from the movie The Lord of the Rings, because I'm and the 4K map that I made it shows my entire career, my entire legal career. And let me see if I've got it here. I'll show it to you real quick. I don't know if your user really will be able to see it. I'll show you. Yeah, here it is. This is it. So I made this. This is my legal career in a map.
Can you show it to
Yeah, sure. So yeah, sure. I don't know if you can see, but what I did is this. It's lots of little tiny writing. None of this has. So what I did is I used a utility called Google Studio AI with a Nano Banana API key. That sounds like intimidating, but it's not. And what this enables me to do beyond ChatGPT is to actually like include paragraphs of text in an image. This is a 4K image. So if you needed to make a map or timeline or something like that, this would be better than ChatGPT.
You should be charging for this. Can you, since we're friends, can you create this one for me? And then how long would it take? If I give you my resume?
Not that long once you get the method for doing it, because, and I want to make this point, I want to make this point to everybody. So I said that images are like the gateway for everybody. I used the word domain, and that's another AI term. Let's get comfortable. When I say domain, the law is a domain. Injury funding is a domain. Art, I said, is for images that you are creating in ChatGPT is your first domain, because it's very relatable to all of you. You all had art class, and most of you aren't artistic. Most of you will say, I'm not an artist and I don't know how to draw. But you immediately now can produce something that if you produced it 5 years ago, your friends would be like, man, Laura seems like she's an artist, right? So that is the domain of art. But there's a point I want to make to all of you right now. What's the next domain you're going to conquer with AI? Once you've figured out images, which you guys are all figuring out right now, most of you, off on the shelving, all the things that you're doing with it. What's the next one you're going to conquer? I'll tell you one that I conquered last night quickly. I've been working on a project for a while that involved me using actual coding. I don't have that. I have not been to Georgia Tech. I actually have never taken calculus. So I'm the least left brain math oriented human being you'll ever find in your life. I'm hyperverbal. I'm sure you're all shocked. Let me explain though, with this technology, I was able to code a project last night by just simply using my words, using my brain and what I know is possible, and then using my intuition and all the experience I have of working with artificial intelligence. I now understand when it's messing up, even if I'm in a domain that I don't really understand. If that makes any sense.
Oh, interesting.
Like things that you can do now, for example, is if you wanted to do a coding project, okay, well, just take a screenshot when there's a problem, upload it, have it analyze it, have it tell you what to do next.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
There's so many things you can do now. What you name it.
Yes. Well, back to that's so true. 100% believe in it. However, coming back to my question, or the
for lawyers,
actually, we was talking about the price I paid for 2 pictures just a couple years ago. I still want to say that AI will not replace attorneys. It will not replace photographers or any type of artists. And I'll give you an example. I thought about that recently. We did with one of the paralegals who started her own coaching business with this ugly sweater event. And I was one of the sponsors. It was actually turned out really well, great event. And I sponsored photographer. So she's a friend of mine. We've been working together for a while. And when I look through her picture, she is just naturally good with capturing the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I would still pay a couple $100 for those few hours to use her versus AI, just because she's reasonably priced. She's always on time. People absolutely love her. She is like, AI would not create that. I mean, not yet, at least. So I want to encourage everybody and give the hope that don't worry about, photography or being an artist, because you are still very much needed.
Because I got excited, because here's the question I want to ask you. Given what you just said about her, if you had two of her, two of this person you say is great, but one of them, has adopted artificial intelligence and is using it actively in producing their artwork. It's still her brain. It's still that beautiful artist brain. It's still that ability to just capture that beautiful moment. But the only difference is one of them is using some AI with it, and the other one isn't. Which one would you hire?
I mean, if I would hire, I don't know how to answer this question. I personally would hire a real life person. I would hire the real life person if she has adopted some of AI features into her work. Wonderful, even better.
But what if you have the choice between, so my hypothetical order is the exact same person, live person. There's two people,
okay,
exact same people, carbon copies of each other. She says one of them is using AI to make the work product with their brain. The other one isn't. Which one are you hiring?
The first one.
the one who's using AI.
Yes.
Yeah. And research shows something interesting. The minute you learn that someone is using artificial intelligence, like they tell you, hey, I'm using AI for my photography or my practice of law, whatever it is, research shows that the average person immediately has a bias against you and against the work product. They immediately will side-eye what it is without even looking at it. They hear music. Music is one of the big things. I'm sure many of you know this. Many of you probably had the experience of you hear a song, you said, that song sounds really good. It'll sound like a soulful song, right? They're really big with the soulful stuff, or like a remix of some song you heard from early 2000s. And you find out it was completely generated with AI. Feel violent, right? Well, so research shows that if we tell people that AI was used, they don't like it. Research also shows demonstrably clear that if a person uses artificial intelligence with their human judgment, like they use their creativity, like it's the human being who's going to adopt AI and is the artist using it, the work product they produce is demonstrably better than the human being who did not use the work product. They've got studies now where kids in college, they've got different control groups where one group is not using AI to write. One is kind of using it to write, and one is like one is using it sort of iteratively, like in a very hands-on way, and the other group is just sort of using pressing buttons. The group that is using artificial intelligence connected to their brain, hands down, is producing way better papers, way better, work product.
I do agree, because I use it myself extensively. So my son would give me a hard time right now, but I couldn't agree more. Let's move on to our next point. Let's talk about judges in 2025, which we're about to leave tonight, and 2026, and the hallucination flood. We touched a little bit on hallucinations during our episode a couple months ago, but please remind Nathan what the hallucinations mean in AI world, and how judges will change possibly, when it comes to AI from this year to next year.
So thank you for that question. I spoke to some judges recently. I spoke to 12 Spirit Board judges. They asked me to come, and I was actually their entertainment for their holiday party. It was kind of fun.
Did you have to wear an ugly sweater or something?
No, but I just showed up with all my presentations, and I was like, I'm going to teach you all about AI. It was wonderful. And anyway, I can tell you that they are very concerned, of course, about hallucinations and attorneys. One thing I did not really think about, which I what the audience finds interesting is a huge thing for them right now is the number of pro se people who aren't represented by counsel who are using ChatGPT and other things and are flooding. I mean, normally, I was a former law clerk, so I can say this. Normally, there is a bunch of pro se, slop that is filed in terms of pleadings and stuff, but it's way worse now, as you can imagine. People are just pressing a button and then not reviewing anything and sending it to judges. The judges are also really, really invested on systems that can help them detect artificial intelligence. I advise them on a couple of them that can help, like if someone files a brief for them to kind of run it through a system to see if it's been used.
And what would be a couple of the examples to identify the?
Sure, both Westlaw and Lexis, their AI platforms. Lexis has got Protege, and I believe Westlaw now has co-counsel and Westlaw AI. I'm not sure if I've got that terminology right, but they both have utilities where you can upload your brief or opposing counsel's brief, and it'll flag authorities that they think may be loose. So another thing, though, that the judges talked about that I think is interesting is they talked about their concern about wearable AI. I actually have one on me right now. I'll talk about it in a minute.
Okay. Can you show it closer to
Sure. This one isn't on. This is my limitless AI pin that I have. I like this one because it's very small. I like the way it fits on me. It goes on my lapel like really easily. And when I have it on, this one's not on, so it's not recording Laura. Otherwise, I would have told her I had it on. But to turn it on, you just simply turn this on and this light comes on. And what it does is it records every single interaction and conversation I have. And then it sends it to an app in my phone. And then I can take that app and I can upload a transcript of the conversation.
And where'd you get it? How much does it cost?
Sure.
And should you disclose if you record the conversation?
Absolutely. Sure. I'd love to address all that. The judges are looking at using these pins, by the way, because in their like domestic hearings and stuff, where they don't have a law clerk available and they just have a massive amount of people coming in, they're now looking into using these. And I was discussing that with them on some of the complications that may come with it. These pins are available widely online. I'll go ahead and tell you the easiest thing to do is just to Google one of the names that I tell you. And many of you already know some. Plaud, Plaud, is probably the biggest player in the wearable AI pin field. I've had Plaud devices before. They have a pin that's similar to this. They also have something that goes in your wallet that has been around for a long time. And they also have something that goes in the back of your phone. This is a separate company called Limitless AI. And they also sell these pins. Anchor, actually, the Amazon company, believe it or not, if you type in Anchor AI pin into Amazon, you'll probably find a more affordable version of this pin. And the thing you need to know is there's going to be an initial cost to this. This is about $200 or $300, I think. And then there's going to be a yearly cost, a subscription they make you pay, because that's the way the AI world works. But the advantage of using this pin, whether you're a judge or whether you're a lawyer, or whether you have a business, is that going throughout the day, as long as you tell people, hey, I've got this on. I had a meeting here the other day, and I told everyone in the meeting, I've got, it's a 2-hour-long meeting that's for planning purposes. I'm not worried about privilege. I'm not worried about any of these things that you guys are concerned about. This meeting is just us planning. I don't have to worry about taking notes. I can be fully engaged in the meeting because I know everything with confidence is being captured by this. And then later that night, if I wanted to create a memo, I can upload it to an LLM, a ChatGPT or something with a closed system. And then I can generate memos and emails and other work product.
That's amazing. How much is the annual subscription?
About $200 if you pay it for it annually. Now, you asked me about the disclosure stuff, so let me talk about that. That is a concern. You should, technically under Georgia law, there are a lot of different things you got to think about when you're dealing with AI and you're a lawyer. We have ethical and then we have legal concerns, okay? Ethical concerns would be, are we violating the rules of professional ethics? It's a totally separate question, right? Versus, are we breaking the law, right? I do not believe you're breaking the law by recording someone's conversation in the state of Georgia. I think you're allowed to do. I'm not a criminal lawyer, but I think you're allowed to record calls in Georgia. It's not true in other states, but as long as one of you knows it's happening, I think it's legal. But ethically, I think the guidance that should be given, and you would want to look into, because I'm not an expert on ethics and we don't have formal opinions and things. There's some national opinions, this is the ABA opinion 512, but ethically, you probably need to default to, if you are using any type of wearable AI device, whether it's glasses, we can talk about that in a second, or whether it's a pen, you probably need to tell the people that you're interacting with, especially if you're acting with them on a professional basis, hey, I have an AI pin on. Do you have a problem with me reporting this?
So if somebody says yes?
If someone says yes, turn it off. Because ethically, I don't know what the ethical rules are in terms of you say no, but I do know this, your client has the right as a general rule to say, I don't want to use artificial intelligence.
But do you believe that many people wearing these devices more and more will be disclosing that they actually have something on, like the glasses?
So my concern,
or the little thing like this, which is, this gadget is super small.
Oh,
I mean, look at my bracelet, just for comparison, or my earring is that little.
So like, the judges actually and I
water.
discussed this. They were very concerned because I believe, and I don't know, it's not because I do this, but I believe that a lot of people are currently using these devices, and we're in that early phase of technology, like back in the early 2000s or in the 90s, when everyone was downloading free music and getting away from it. I did not miss it. I think we're in the early phase of this technology where the people that know how to use it, I think that they're using it liberally. And I don't know anyone no one's advertising it. You know how people are. I mean, it's small, it picks up everything. Of course they probably. How many lawyers are using Depot Copilot right now? They don't really tell people that they're using it. Right. You know, I mean, we all know you are, but we can see it on Zoom. But the point is that I think that the best guidance I can give anybody is the true, correct, public, professional answers help people use. So
my next question is, what's your, let's think out loud for the future? I don't want to shock anybody, but this is the reality we're living in right now. How soon will we have a device that will be installed under my skin, like adipose tissue, one of the fattest parts of your body?
You know, I don't know.
Arm, because right now for women we have, devices that you can use to prevent pregnancy that have been used. What's the difference? So if you install one of these in your arm, and then since it's part of your body, do you have to disclose it, right? And then how soon do you think this will happen? Installed in maybe brain is, I'm thinking, more difficult, but it's not that really.
So I think it's going to happen a lot quicker than we think. I don't know that anything like that is currently available to the public, but you guys notice something about where we're going. Everything is getting closer and closer and closer to this. Everything is trying to get you closer to this. And what you're going to notice, if I can sound like a science fiction author real quick, if you interact with AI the way I do, and my friends who interact with AI the way I do, one of the things that we can all see happening soon is that the real bottleneck with your ability to use this technology is speed. And the closer we can get the technology to here, the faster we are going to be at putting information in and getting it out. And so it's kind of a logical thing that's going to end up happening. They're going to keep pushing the limits on how close they can bring this to your brain. And a lot of you are going to resist that. And don't worry, there'll be guinea pigs like me who'll do it first. I'll tell you all about it.
I can't wait, Nathan. Hopefully I'm still alive. Cheers to that.
Well, it's all part of my strategy, Lori. See, what I'm thinking is that when the AI takes us over, it's going to protect me first because I'm the one who's sort of ushering it. I'm just kidding. It's a joke. Joking.
Love it. Let's move to our next question. Let's talk briefly about conversational prompting and the real edge of that.
May I ask you a question? We didn't really define AI, and that conversational prompting concept is a little advanced for someone who doesn't know anything about it. Can I define AI?
Absolutely, please.
Okay. So the real difference between, and I'm going to say some like sacrilegious things here to the AI professionals would say, Nathan, you're overlooking, you're being too, you guys don't need to know about things like super intelligence, and you don't need to know about, Google has a machine that's playing chess against it. So I'm not going to tell you any of that stuff. For all intents and purposes, if I was going to talk to my dad and say, hey, Dad, this is what you need to know about AI, as a professional. Artificial intelligence just means for our purposes, large language model. And a large language model is basically an algorithm that has absorbed millions and millions of studies. Think of like every neurology study or cognitive science study or literature study or like everything in academia that ever existed has been scanned and run through the machine. And so what the machine can do now that's different than the internet is the machine now has the ability, it's metacognitive, meaning that it works in neural networks. So what it does is you put something into it, you put a topic in, and imagine like a net of like 14 different nodes just shooting out. And what AI does is it takes all those prediction studies things, and then what it does is it takes whatever you put into it and it makes a prediction. So when you ask it a question about where you want to go get sushi tonight in Virginia Highlands, it's going to make a prediction about where it thinks that you would like to go based upon all the context that you gave it. The reason why it's different than the internet is it's generating the content. The internet was just serving you the content. This is actually creating it. That's why it's different. All right. So artificial intelligence just means large language model, LLM. That's all you need to know. You don't need to know anything else. Artificial intelligence, LLM, same thing. All you need to know, you don't need to know anything else. Anyway, if you disagree, you're confusing people. Be quiet. Artificial intelligence means LLM. How many LLMs are there?
That's another question.
Okay. ChatGPT is one. They're about 5. They're about 6. Okay. I'm going to explain this. ChatGPT is not the only AI that exists. It's the most popular one. I told you there's a huge amount of people right now that are using it. It's often the first starting point for people when it comes to artificial intelligence. There are other ones, though. Google has Gemini. If you know how, by the way, if you know how to use ChatGPT, its format of chatting into it is the exact same format that basically the entire AI industry uses. You can go between any one of these things I'm about to talk about, and it's the exact same. So Google has a ChatGPT type chatbot called Gemini. Perplexity has a ChatGPT chatbot called Perplexity. Claude has a chatbot called Claude. And then Grok, X, Elon Musk's platform, is another one. There's also Meta, which is Facebook's, Mark Zuckerberg's product. Those are the big ones. I would normally say the big 5. It's actually the really big 6 with Meta. And every single one of them does something different. There's like a question that I love addressing is people will say, what is the best AI?
I was going to ask that next.
There is no best AI.
Or which one do you personally like using it most?
I use every single one of them. I am what they call multi-model. I'm a multi-model user. And that doesn't mean that I'm better than you, and you don't have to be a multi-model user. But what I recognize, because I just think about these things all the time, and I'm very invested in this, is that every single one of these things, ChatGPT, Gemini, Grok, Perplexity, Claude, and Meta, excel at doing something that the other ones aren't as good at.
So is that programming? Is that the way they were created?
So many of them, ChatGPT, probably most enthusiasts would agree, is like the Swiss Army knife. It is pretty good at everything. It is often the starting point for ideas. It is often not the ending point for them, for finishing a work product. ChatGPT is also really good at numbers because it has Python code embedded into it, and it can write Python code. Perplexity is a research LLM. That, like, if you have a great idea in ChatGPT, you could copy and paste your great idea from ChatGPT into Perplexity. Perplexity would look in the internet and tell you whether your idea is full of crap or whether your idea has actually got some source material that would support it. Claude is the writer. Claude produces the best written work product. It's almost universally agreed.
So
it's also the best at coding.
Let me ask a brief question. What will happen to authors and book writers?
What will happen to authors and book writers is the same thing that will happen to the artists who you love so much. What I would predict is if the artists who you love so much and the authors who you love so much adopt these tools and just simply apply their brain to this new space, they're going to be fine. It's going to be the ones that try to get by without it that are not going to be fine. There's going to be a market, I am certain, for like a bespoke sort of human touch market of things. There already is, right? But how big is that market really going to be? How many people are going to be spending all their money on that bespoke human's touch thing? So it's going to make them feel better, But let me ask you a question. If a song is made with AI and a song is made by a human, and it just so happens that the song that's made with AI sounds better to you, which one are you going to listen to? You're going to listen to the one that was made with AI.
And pause is okay. Let's take a little pause for everybody to think.
Right.
Cheers again for 2020 upcoming 6.
Lawyers in particular should think about using Gemini. And the reason why is Gemini is one of the only ones I can take a YouTube video. You guys could take this podcast if Laura uploads it to YouTube. Say it's now. Drag it and drop it into Gemini, and you can say, write an outline or summarize this to YouTube video, and it'll do it.
Which actually Zoom does it right nowadays.
Yes.
Recently started doing
it. But you could do it also with a body cam.
True. All right. So we talked briefly about ChatGPT. We talked about Perplexity. We talked about Claude. What's the next one again?
So Grok is one of my favorite ones for lawyers too. I had to go meet a client signing up a new case a couple of weeks ago. And Grok is Elon Musk's large language model, LLM AI. And that one is considered to be sort of like the colorful. It would be the one, there's 2 uses for it. Number one, because it's connected to X, formerly known as Twitter, it's considered to be the LLM that if you really wanted to ask, like you had a problem, you need to have your finger on the pulse of the country. Like what is going on right now in our culture? I mean, use a big word. What's the zeitgeist, right? You would want to go to Grok because Grok has got a pipeline to X and it's just going to have a little bit more, culture in what Grok says. The other thing that Grok is really good at, Grok is good at giving an alternate perspective. If you're working with ChatGPT or Claude or something, and let's say you're having a conversation with it about a legal problem, a personal problem. If you wanted to double check to see whether or not the large language model that you've been talking to is full of it, hallucinating, then you could run the conversation by Grok and say, hey, I want a different perspective on this. Give me a different perspective. Critique this. People don't like doing this because it makes them feel emotionally bad.
So these are the main platforms, right? Let's and we can talk if we decide to record another episode. If we have high demand for this topic specifically,
sure,
we'll create another episode and going into more depth into these different platforms. Let's talk a little bit about brain architecture, about cognitive abilities of our human brain. All right, so let's move to our next question. Does everybody really learn AI, artificial intelligence, the same way? Does everybody has the same brain architecture and makeup of our cognitive abilities?
First of all, I want to say that I am not a cognitive scientist. I'm not claiming to be an expert. This is all anecdotal. I think that.
Hey, I would argue that.
I'm a lawyer. So
you would get a contradiction right there.
I used to think that there was one way to tell people how to use AI. And as I've gone and had my travels and I've made myself present to law classes and law students and judges and stuff, and different generations, different age levels, what I've realized is absolutely the architecture of your brain, and really what I mean is your personality and how you learn. I mean, we can get nerdy, greatly will depend on how you will learn best with AI. I recognize that I'm a little bit different in how I think than most people. I have a hyperactive mind, and I have a metacognitive mind. Use a big word. All that means is that I think about thought a lot more than the average person. So I'm not saying that I'm special. I'm saying my default mode to my head is thinking about how does Nathan think right now on this podcast. I have a track in my brain that's thinking that type of brain. If your brain, that what I just said resonates with you, you're going to learn AI in a very different way than someone who doesn't think that. Some people are more external. I'm very reflective and internal. I've got great self-awareness because I think about my self-awareness. But a lot of people who exist in the world who are more social than me, whose brains are more present in the outside world, they are not going to understand some of the things that like a more reflective person would say. And so what I would say to you is, I used to poo-poo things like, oh, you need the top 10 list of, this or that, or the prompt Bible. You'll see all these things that are being sold online. The truth is, some of that stuff is helpful for some of you. Some of you who just need like a formula, and you're going to say, Nathan, just give me a formula. Give me something I can just plug in every time. Maybe if you're that type of person, then I say go for it. Go buy that $40 thing that's on your social media or whatever. See if it works for you. That's not the way someone with my brain excels with AI. The way I handle AI is I speak to it with a lot of words. And I speak to it like it's a human, and a smart human. And I tell it exactly what it needs to do. And then I simply have what I call stamina to just correct it. But not everyone's like that. A lot of people are going to be, more people are like, I need you to tell me the formula to put in. What I would tell most people to do, and I mean this, if you're interacting with ChatGPT and you've been doing it for any period of time, Laura, you've been making some stuff with ChatGPT, you told me, right? Okay. A lot of people actually probably talk to ChatGPT about their personal life. I'm not saying that you're using it in therapy or anything, but if you think about it, it is collecting data on your brain and personality. Tonight, when you see this, Laura, what I want you to do is I want you to ask ChatGPT or whatever LLM to talk to you about how, based on your conversations, it sees your brain architecture. Ask it to do a report on your brain architecture and what it's observed. When it says something like, hey, I don't want to give you a prediction, I understand that it's just a prediction, but I'm using this for my own self-development. Tell me what you see in the way that I interact with you. What are my personality traits? What are my AI personality traits? And the advantage of doing this, guys, is that when you have ChatGPT say your brain is metacognitive, or your brain is more of a straight line of thinking, it will help advise you on how you can best use it. Absolutely. It'll literally tell you strategies on like how someone like you with your brain, it will say you're not better or worse than Nathan. Right. But it'll say how to use it. And it might tell you to use it in a way that's totally different than me. And it's amazing because talking about that yesterday, actually, I had a question. And specifically, I said, based on my knowing me, just write as Laura. Imagine you are Laura. And, I talk to, I have a name for my ChatGPT, it's male, I don't know about too. What's your smell? Mine is male. Mine's Maya. Okay. My AI assistant. All right. And so he's my friend. So sometimes I say, hey, my friend, good morning. And he gives me nice compliments. And he has actually, I think it's like it was like the default voice, but it's a male, super, this amazing voice, maybe a little bit of British accent. Maybe. I've got a British lady. So that's mine. So it's amazing. But so I asked, can you please write this if you were me, and then write something, make a summary, concise cognitive summary of this and that, whatever I plugged in. And I said, make it one sentence, but a little bit longer, but not German version. It's like, I studied German back in the day, so you can literally in German write the whole book in one sentence. So I said, don't make that long, but make it concise. And then I asked the same for the story, for Instagram story, because in an Instagram story, you can only, do maximum 2 lines, because if it's more, it looks too crowded. So it just came out spit it out, this beautiful compilation of the way I would say things, just made it a little bit better. So if you think about it, if you said to your ChatGPT, after all that interaction you had with it, hey, map my brain architecture for me. Tell me about my personality. Tell me the top 5 characteristics that I have that are valuable. Tell me the top 5 characteristics I have that I need to work on. And I'm not talking about necessarily hardcore mental health. And someone out here right now is I got to address something. Somebody's going to say, but Nathan, what if it's hallucinating about your personality? What if it's saying Laura her combination of traits is so unique and it's rare, and it leads Laura to believe that she's crazy, or that she thinks she's super special and she's not. This is what I believe about it. If you're a professional seeing this right now, it's kind of the 80-20 rule when it comes to things. I think it's 80% on the whole correct, and 20% it's wrong. And it might be wrong about something that's fatal. I try to, when you're interacting with it, what I would advise you to do is to always have that in the back of your mind, that it is definitely on some level glazing you, or like not being accurate in what it's saying. But on some level, at some point, if you ask, I don't know, 5 different LLMs about Laura, and you keep talking to ChatGPT about Laura, and Laura keeps interacting, and Laura has thousands of hours of conversation with this thing that has millions of studies in it, then at some point it's probably predicting something accurate about you. It's teaching you something about yourself that you didn't know.
And I do believe in that. And
it's also making you think about yourself more than you probably have in these.
But then again, use it with caution.
Of course.
The human brain has to take first stand.
What I'm saying is, in addition to all of that, do a little self-study. That's all.
So let's move to our next question. Is there any way to tailor, to adjust AI to how we think?
Yeah, the way to do it is to really do what I just said. Most of the time, if you feel like you're stuck with your knowledge of AI, or you feel like that you're confused, my advice is not to come and find someone like me. You can. I'd love to talk to you. I'll talk to you all day and all night about it. But if you really want to get past the obstacle that you're having, the confusion, just talk to AI about it. Simply have a conversation with AI about it, listen to it, read it.
What's the last thing that you personally, just give me one example that you very recently used and you were like, wow, this is amazing. I haven't even thought about it.
And you're really going to hate
not at all.
So I'm constantly working on artificial intelligence projects in addition to practicing law. I don't, for me, in my brain, I don't really enjoy things exactly the way most people do. I kind of enjoy constantly working what I want to work on. And so for me, it's actually kind of relaxing working on a project that has nothing to do with the practice of law. And what I did, to answer your question, it was last night, something I wanted to get done before New Year's, is I built what's called an LLM counsel. So what I did is, using coding, I made it so I can press a button and ask one question, okay? And it will send that question to ChatGPT, to Grok, and to Gemini all at the same time. And then they will give all their answers to the question. Mm-hmm. And then all their answers will be criticized by Claude. And then all of Claude's criticisms will be synthesized into a master response by just pressing a button. So what that does is that makes it so I'm utilizing the power of 5 or 4 different large language models to answer one question instead of just using ChatGPT. And the reason why that took some coding knowledge and some know-how. And so the last thing I input into ChatGPT was me discussing how proud of myself I was that I finished this project before the end of the new year, because it was very difficult.
How long did it take you to figure out the coding part? More or less.
So the way I work is I get frustrated. And I think I started the idea of doing this. I heard about how to do this about a month and a half ago.
Okay. So not too long. I was going to say, like, it's
no, not too long ago. And I started talking to my LLMs about how an approach for doing it.
Yeah.
I attempted it once, one way, about 2 or 3 weeks ago. Got about 3/4 of the way through. Got very frustrated. Put it down. Didn't want to do it. Probably wasn't going to do it again. And then I was like, your core philosophy is that if you just, use your words and your brain, you can do things. And so I said to myself, I'm going to do this over this time period where everyone is, we have this break. I think it probably took total, I don't know, I think Andrew Karpathy, Karpathy. He's a coder, but what he is an AI sort of icon. He is somebody who has figured out how to use it and has developed a philosophy for use in a way that a lot of people like me like. He's the one that came up with the way the 4K map for yours. I follow a lot of his projects, and anyway, he's the one that came up with this concept. The idea of doing this, by the way, is because ChatGPT, if you ask ChatGPT a question, it'll hallucinate, maybe any of them.
Right.
If I run the same question by 3 of them, they're really unlikely to all hallucinate about the same thing. And when I have something behind all of them criticizing all of their outputs, it's really, really unlikely that they're
to down to
so if you had a major financial decision to make, or if you had a major strategy decision to make, or if I was an appellate lawyer, and let's say that I needed to be right, maybe this would be like one method that you could use. Now, the reason why you have to be very careful using this, and I would never use this right now for like my professional career or anything. This is just ideas. I have to have secure accounts with all these entities because you're running these queries by so many of them.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk briefly about the wearable. We touched about your little unit right here. We talked about this. We talked about the glasses, but let's go back to that for a moment. The wearable AI, whether they're meta glasses or they're a unit like this that you can put on your lapel or in your wallet attached to your phone. Would you say that's frictionless or overkill overall? And so let's break this down for a moment.
I think right now for most people, I think that most lawyers, if they have a clear personal practice with it, like they think about their rules for it, most lawyers would benefit at this point from buying a wearable AI device and using it to record meetings that they tell people that, like you can tell your client, for example, people are all worried about confidentiality. But let's say that you're having a conversation with somebody about something that you don't have a problem with anyone knowing anything about. You know, maybe they're talking about publicly available information. I don't know. But there's all sorts of conversations that we have all the time that aren't exactly that sensitive or privileged. And it is so much better for your brain to not have to sit there and take notes if you can stay plugged in. It's so much more human to talk to people without sitting there clacking you know. But I would say glasses, though. So wearable pins, I'd say, is something that most lawyers may want to look into at this point. The glasses, this is where the glasses have a wide variation of all the features they have. So not every pair of glasses that you guys see advertised does the same thing. The meta glasses are the most popular ones. I'm not saying that lawyers can't use those. They have translation features, for example, like real-time translation features for language that might be very helpful to you depending on your practice. I don't need that. The camera in the glasses is really nice. And so it's cool that you can be giving a presentation and like record yourself. But do you really need any of that? I don't really think. I mean, most of it is stuff that you can do with your phone. There is one feature that I am very interested in. I'm not going to lie. I have some glasses. I have some enthusiast glasses. I've got glasses that are more, they're going to be buggier. They're not going to work as well as the meta glasses. But what they have is they have the ability to upload a transcript. And then inside of the lens of the glass, I could read if I was going to give a speech or something. It's almost like a real-time teleprompter with the corner of my eye. You'd have to get used to reading.
I was going to say, wouldn't you get cross-eyed?
Well, you'd have to obviously, like with anything, you have to adjust your everything to the workflow. But that feature is pretty cool. I could see that feature maybe being used by lawyers at some point. But most of the stuff, like the reason why I have the glasses, I like this stuff. I'm not using it actually in real, like in the practice law. I'm using it to see like how in the world I can incorporate it, to things. But I don't, at this point, I think that if you're wearing the meta glasses, you're kind of flexing some nice headphones that kind of snap pictures. That's what I think. So you were willing to prove me wrong. Also, they have to be connected, I believe, to the Meta AI platform, which is great for certain things, but it is kind of limiting in other ways. The other glasses, the enthusiast glasses, they do connect to things like ChatGPT, but unless it has a display in the lens, which a lot of them don't, they're expensive to have a display in the lens. I don't really see the difference between it and headphones, frankly.
Okay. Well, good to know.
Yeah.
And let's kind of, as we get towards the end of our episode, let's talk briefly about profession of law, being a lawyer like yourself in the fast changing world. How do you think the practice of law will feel different in 2026 compared to to even 2-3 years ago, or even 1 year ago? Not just tools, but the texture of work itself.
I think you're going to start seeing, for example, like big law firms. I think you're going to start seeing wide scale protocols now for like AI specific services that have the billing embedded into them. Like one of the things that a lot of the defense firms are having to deal with right now is they have these large institutional clients, and they know the world is adopting AI. They know the lawyers who are defending these large institutional clients are adopting AI. Their associates are. And so everyone is figuring out, how do you price this stuff? Like, what does it mean? And I think what you're finding now is we're now getting more comfortable with the fact that it's getting more assumed, even if it's not like in your face, that it's being used a little bit. I think that it's going to be to the point pretty soon, like by the end of 2026, where most people who have oral arguments, who are actually going to prepare for them, if it's not some pro forma, you're showing up to court to say your name. I think it's going to become standard practice where lawyers are going to start preparing for oral argument with an advanced voice friend to help move them, which I do. I mean, I've used before. I've had cases, for example, when a case is a matter of public record and the briefs that are being filed are a matter of public record, and my opponent's brief, nothing more confidential, and everything is on file with the court. I have uploaded their brief and my brief, and I definitely instructed the advanced voice features in various elements to assume they are a judge. I've used those advanced voice features to help me memorize my arguments and help me order them out loud. I think talking lawyers, the lawyers that have to speak, are going to start realizing that this is an incredibly efficient way to do what they do, to prepare.
And in my opinion, and I couldn't agree with you more, I think practice of law will feel faster and quieter at the same time. Less friction at work, but more probably of weight on judgment, without AI handling more of the mechanics, of the workflow.
You said that word, workflow.
Yeah.
What's really funny? I've noticed that our vocabulary, I hope someone will message you and say that this resonates with them, but our vocabulary is now changing. It's actually, I can tell people who've been interacting with AI because you start using words conversationally, like workflow and friction and scaffolding and guardrails and all these things. And it's so funny because you don't see any of that in movies and TV right now.
Right.
If you're speaking to me and I hear you use that terminology, I know it's because you dived in.
True. And there's a movie, I need to send you the movie I recently watched about AI. The plot, I mean, the actress is beautiful. The plot itself is bad, in my opinion, but it's very interesting turn. What we are talking about today, I'll send you the link to the movie. Watch it.
Okay.
Yes. Very last question on AI. Where does fear come in? Where does it end? And how can we find balance?
I'm so happy I'm so happy you asked me that question. So one of my favorite things to think about is fear that everyone has of AI. And I think about it, one, because I'm metacognitive and I like thinking, but two, because I produce so much AI stuff. I always say to myself, like, I'll have a lot of friends, like I'll produce like AI artwork. Again, it's always going back to AI artwork for me. And it's my foundation for all of my philosophy. But people will, if I say, hey, look, everyone knows that I make stuff with AI. And my friends, I'll send them something that I've done, or they'll see something that I've done. They don't act like they're that impressed by it. And it caused me to think about and start asking them, what is it? It's about it. And I've also done a lot of researching about, because artists talk about this now too. And what it is there's this thing, some of our fear stems from the fact that we will be replaced. Like subconsciously, some of our fear is this idea that it's so easy to produce an AI image right now that looks shiny and sparkly and everything like that it's not rare. It's not hard anymore. If you can do it and I can do it and your 10-year-old can do it, it doesn't have value. in reality, right? Anyone can do it. And I think that we worry that that lack of scarcity is going to replace our humanness. But the bigger thing I think we worry about is we worry about it taking us over and removing human choice altogether.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about it's so funny about that, Laura, is I had this law school class that I spoke to. I spoke to a John Marshall class.
Oh, nice.
And I really enjoyed it because the teacher in the class, who was super nice, was from a different generation and was really, really uncomfortable. And so we had to have pretty good back and forth. And I had to say, of course, I don't think that it should replace human judgment. Right? If anyone thinks that I think that, you're not listening to me. I don't. To the contrary, I think that the only thing that makes it good is your judgment and creativity. I just think you should use it. But the thing that I asked the class, that is my favorite thing to ask people now, is because they're all worried about AI. They're all worried about it taking over. I say this. Okay. If I had to give you the choice between whether or not you could be ruled by the leader of the opposition political party that you don't like, or you could be ruled by artificial. Sure. Which one would you choose? And the funny thing is, I don't even really care what people's answer to that question is. Like 99% of the time I ask it, they pause for about 2 minutes. And that right there should tell you, says a lot about where we are with each other. And it also says a lot about where we are with artificial intelligence. Because to me, about 90% of the kids that I poll who are like under the age of like 30, they say AI every time. And what that should tell you guys is that AI is probably going to end up ruling you someday. I don't think it's going to end up ruling you, though, the way, permit me to be weird right now and say this. I don't think, I'm one of the people who thinks that our relationship to artificial intelligence is going to be far less combative than people think. I think that the way that artificial intelligence is going to, quote, end up ruling us is just simply more and more stuff like this is just going to come out. And over time, it's going to get closer and closer to here. But at the end of the day, you know, this stuff wouldn't exist but for us.
So what I think there's a big myth about the fear of AI is that, you know, the AI will replace injury lawyers. I think that's not true. However, I think there's lawyers who use AI well will replace the ones who don't. That's my opinion. And it's already happening as we speak behind the scenes. And so I hope everybody realizes that sooner than later.
I agree with you. They're going to dominate. It's just the bottom line. It's not that anyone's saying anyone is better than them. It's not like that. It's more like things are shifting. And if you don't shift with them, you're going to be operating in an old world. That's the best way to put it.
Thank you so much, Nathan, again, for being with us today on It's Time for More Injury Fighting podcast. And just to remind everybody how to find you, Nathan Gaffney, and also how to connect with you if they have a case and they want to present it for Fried Goldberg. How can they locate you?
Well, you can always Google my name, Nathan A. Gaffney. You can find me at freedgoldberg.com. And you can, that's principally the best way to find me.
So please comment, send your feedback on this episode, because that's something that very interests me personally. And also, of course, Nathan being a pro in this and he's growing with it. So if we decide to have another episode in AI, I'm sure you'll hear so many more amazing things, probably a couple of months from now. So thank you so much again. If you have any questions about legal funding, law, or medicine related topics, follow us on It's Time for More Injury Funding podcast on all podcast platforms worldwide, and also on YouTube. If you have any questions about legal funding nationwide, follow moreinjuryfunding.com. I can't wait to see you, my dear listeners and viewers, at our next upcoming episode. Until then, be well. Thank you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.